Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Scarves and Spikes. Tyler and Sydney here, and Tommy is on the way to restart his internet, so he'll be here momentarily.
But he is on his way in as we speak.
Coming in hot.
As we speak, coming in hot. His internet went down, like Tyler said, so it's getting that resolved, and he will be on to join the party here shortly.
Absolutely.
Maybe in a matter of seconds, even.
We got a really good one for y'all today. Obviously, we were able to speak with Dax McCarty a little while ago. Got that recording coming up. He's chatting about Atlanta United, kind of what's going on with them right now. Really, really cool insight because of his perspective, obviously, with the team last year. So just a really fun one. And then we got to get you guys ready for Philadelphia.
Philadelphia Union. I feel like it's been forever since Atlanta have played a match away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but here they are now going out to Philly. Obviously, that's coming up then the week after Orlando City. So two very good teams. As we talked about the other day, these are two very good teams that they're facing, and we all know this team's history, Tyler, with away matches. So hopefully things turn for the better here in the next couple of days. I'm sure we'll get into Philly here in a moment.
Last year, Atlanta only did marginally better at home than they did away, which is kind of shocking. Welcome, Tommy.
Yeah. Tommy's here.
You've made it.
Stupid Spectrum.
We're not going to be sponsored by. Yeah, not after that. Not after that.
Tommy just comes in here and drops a bomb on some company, and there goes.
There goes the sponsorship.
We love you, Sweetwater. We love you.
Yes.
Sweetwater's great.
Yes, they are.
So obviously, let's get into that. Scarvesandspikes.com. Go check out the website. Got lots of articles going up. We have all recaps, our opinion pieces, everything else. Had a little bit of Open Cup coverage as well, because that's going on this week as well. If you don't know,
yes, it is.
Check that out over on Paramount Plus. And obviously, thank you so much to our partners at Sweetwater. We were able to give away 2 VIP tickets to 420 Fest, which is coming up here in 2 days. Starts on Friday. So
yes,
thank for everybody for participating in that, diving into it. It was really, really fun. And y'all go visit sweetwaterbrew.com for more info on 420 Fest, on their new beers, on the Rowdy Peach IPA, and everything else going on in the world of Sweetwater Brewing.
Yeah. And patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. We're doing a lot of great things on there as well. If you don't know, we've introduced some new tier benefits for our $5 and $10 a month patrons. I always say, I always don't know what to call them: backers, Patreon members, patrons,
friends,
or things like that.
Legit
Friends, exactly.
Who are awesome.
Yes, legit people who are awesome. But patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. After this show, we are doing a mailbag episode. Thanks to you all who posted questions in there. If you're watching live, still trying to post questions. But patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes, 3 tiers, $1.17 a month, $5 a month, and $10 a month. Merch discounts, exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. All that good stuff. And by the way, also go to our store. There's a link at I would say patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes, but there's a link on scarvesandspikes.com as well.
Got new beer glasses, got new coffee mugs, got new hats and shirts and jackets and all kinds of good stuff. Obviously, have the new Scarves and Spikes community logo because of everything we're doing with the community, kind of getting more involved with MLS overall, obviously Atlanta United coverage, everything else going on. So we truly, truly appreciate it.
Yes.
Tommy, you said something. I might have walked on.
You have a jacket?
There is a jacket, yeah. It's a nice jacket too. I don't have it yet. I haven't ordered one for myself, but
Yeah. Lots of cool stuff on there. Guys, what is going on at the training ground, by the way, before we get into the Dax interview?
It's
Players fighting
WrestleMania
each
week.
other. Exactly. I feel like that's why. It was in honor of WrestleMania. It was a promo for WrestleMania.
Sponsor us,
some,
Peacock.
yeah. Yes, please. But some, a little tussle on the training ground. A little, what did Doug call it in the AJC? Was it that Sleesh called it some friendly competition? I don't know. You guys saw it.
extracurricular activities is what I like to call it.
But there's a phrase that Bartek Sleesh used when he was talking about it with the media on Tuesday. Try to remember what it was, but healthy frustration is what it was. And we talked to Dax about it, and you'll hear his thoughts about it later on. But it's not the end of the world, I would say, but put up against what's going on right now with the team, the slow start 2-3-3, it's easy to kind of look at it and say, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with this team?" And we see in the NFL players get into it in training camp, practice. See, I'm sure the NBA, things like that. But again, sort of play the recency bias. On the surface, this doesn't look good, but maybe it spurs players on to step things up, guys, and spark something in the group.
Team called it a kerfuffle. Funny.
Kerfuffle.
We'll get back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's no underlying issues, I kind of liken it to the old school, you have beef with somebody, you take it out back after school, you figure it out, and then you're best friends again. And I like to think that's what's happening here. I like to think that there's a little bit of passion that's being shown, and that's better than the alternative where everybody just kind of rolls over and says, well,
it doesn't care.
So, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it all day.
Yeah.
Fight. Don't kill each other, but fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Suarez tried to bite his own teammate a couple days ago.
Right? Dude, you know what? How weird
at least
that
we're not
looked?
biting each other.
Like when you poke a chihuahua and it just turns around, it thinks it's getting attacked and it's like, like turns around. And it's like,
oh, you're
do
talking about
you have
poking
experience?
a chihuahua.
Do you have experience in that?
Yes.
I thought this was a weird thing, just a saying that I don't know of.
No, yeah. Literally. Like, it doesn't have to be a chihuahua. I'm sorry. I'm just picking on the little turds. But any dog in the back and they turn around, immediately they just go.
Tyler hates chihuahuas.
That was Suarez.
Have you ever re-skeeted a chihuahua?
Yeah.
All right. No.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, you want to see kind of that fight, not literally always, but you want to see that players care. And, kind of like you said, when we're just roll over and just go through the motions. So, yeah, maybe not the worst thing in the world, but I can see where the perception is that things are kind of falling apart for Atlanta United, both inside and outside the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a team building perspective, like you never want it to have to come to that. And I love the way that Dax, you'll hear Dax talk about it in a minute for sure. And I thought, the way that he kind of laid it out was spot on. And like let it happen, man. Let the emotions come out. Let folks know that you're not okay with the way this season's going, because if anything, it shows the fans that you freaking give a crap.
Yeah.
You've seen on the sidelines of the NFL before during a game,
right?
Like you've seen players fighting, and I think everyone's initial reaction, especially when it started coming out in the Discord and everybody was talking about it, was like, we're done. Like, this is it. They're not recovering from this. But like you said, when we talked to Dax, he was pumped about it. And hopefully this helps build things better. And you're going to Philadelphia. What better place to get ready to pumped up to fight people than Philadelphia, right? The goons, the goons of the Flyers and the Eagles.
Maybe not. Oh, you're talking about, Broad Street bullies like that. I was going to say, I think you're talking about the Union under Bradley Cardinal. So they've kind of turned over a new leaf, right?
Well, I'm still
maybe.
just gonna call. I'm just gonna call
Yeah.
Philadelphia jerks, and you can't tell me any different from there. But you hope that this
Right.
eventually gets. I'm not spoiling the interview, Omar. Calm down. You hope that you see a reaction to this game because it was embarrassing. It was an absolute embarrassing performance in front of your fans that had to come out there with the roof open, the sun shining on all of them,
Nice
and
weather.
you have to. You're going on the road and for 2 games, and you want to come back and show the fans that you fought for these, points on the road where it is hard to win. And if you can come back with 4 points, that would be fantastic. If you come home with 3 points, I still think that's fantastic. Were you going to tell me
do
they need 6
worse.
points? 6 points are
No.
expected,
So
Sydney?
you could do worse. I'm under no illusion that they'll get 6 points, but
Well, the expectation last week was on Sunday when we talked with
Yeah.
everybody about this was 0. Everybody was saying I expect 0 points out of the road trip.
yeah, I don't see that happening. But
So what do you expect? I mean, we'll do predictions and all later, but like we went into this 3-game homestand saying, all right, 9 out of 9 is perfect. Obviously, 7 out of 9 is where it should be. Anything less than 7 out of 9 is not the best. It's not where it needs to be.
I think 4. You look at Philly, kind of not a great team right now. They've kind of hit the skids the past few weeks.
Nah.
You traded your star.
Just a little bit. The Orlando match kind of scares me because Orlando is in good form. They have been in good form, ever since really the season started. So, I'd be okay with 4, like you were saying, Tommy. I think if you come out here with less than 3, that's not great. But yeah,
you wouldn't be okay with 2 draws on the road.
it depends. It depends. I let me backtrack then and say it depends. Like if you're in a position to lose, you come back and you show some heart. You come back in both matches. I think I'll be okay with it because at least it shows you have a pulse. But if you just lay down and you play to back-to-back 0-0 draws or something like that, which I think will happen, that will be more disconcerting to me. So I feel like game state would really kind of dictate what my feelings would be after this particular road swing. But just show something, show some fight. Maybe not literally, but
Hey man, show it.
figurative fight. Figurative fight,
fight.
mainly.
Fight.
Figurative fight.
Literal fight. Let's go. I want to see somebody get DDT'd.
Right.
That's the hard part about these games is you talk about what you expect or what you're hoping for. It's like the Houston match or Dallas. I keep saying Houston, Dallas.
Yeah.
We said a draw would be great, but then you watch the game and said, man, really should have gotten 3. So like you said, Sydney, it depends when you watch the game and where they come out at. Even that Cincinnati game, I thought they deserved a win in that Cincinnati game until, a couple errors in the second half, which was annoying. You need to start showing progress, and Ronnie's he's not on the hot seat yet, but the team's on the hot seat, and just in general here, you have to be able to score goals. You have to be able to stop them. You need to look like you're a team. You need to look like you've played together before. I watched. I know I put in the chat on MLS Monday, but I watched the LAFC San Jose match, and I just watched 2 teams that looked together.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating when you watch 2 teams and be like, man, like we've got just as much talent on this team as them, and we just can't look it. Columbus lost their best player, and they still look like a team, and they still look dangerous, and they're still getting points. You've added to your team. You added to this team that beat Miami, and we've waited the 8 games for this to come together, and now it's just to the point where, all right, when is this going to hit? Is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 15? Is it going to be December? When and I'm not talking about MLS Cup. I'm talking about the off. As soon as the off season starts, is that when you finally get it together and you have to make moves to do this? You just hope that in the next, month, you get it together because you got that road trip, and it's only going to get harder from there.
Yeah.
If you
So-
can get things kind of situated and at least get this team rolling and working together and playing as more of a team than a bunch of individuals who have a lot of talent, by the time you get to that 6-game road trip in the summer, then the 6-game road trip becomes a little bit less of a concern, right? Because at least you are coming back home, in between some of these matches. I mean, it sucks no matter what to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But if you can turn a corner before then that's a good sign for sure. But I think in the short term, if you just need to go up to Philly and show some serious passion, 90 minutes of solid football, create opportunities. Don't go into it and walk away with, like 0, 1, 2 shots on goal or anything like that. Like at least be, pressuring Philly. So, but right now, I mean, fans are frustrated, and they absolutely have a right to be. You are muted, sir.
Who?
You're still
Me?
muted. Nope.
Oh,
Sydney.
my mic was muted.
Oh.
My actual mic was muted. I didn't realize it was flashing red. You guys realize who has some good insight on Atlanta United?
Yes.
Because he played for them.
Very
now
recently,
he is
in fact.
last year.
Jurgen Damm.
No, not
No.
Jurgen Damm. Dax McCarty, and don't want to give too much away, but it was a terrific interview. Dax is, you never have any questions about where Dax stands on a particular subject, and that's what I appreciated about him when we covered him last year, especially during Leagues Cup and throughout the course of the season. But just very candid, very honest, and we asked him about how he got to be that way. We asked him about Atlanta United, what they need to do to get things clicking in 2025. Talked about his experiences with the team last season, what he saw in the locker room, things like that. But it's a great interview, very candid interview, and I think without further ado, we should just go ahead and roll it, guys, right?
Roll it. A gentleman
Dax
who needs
McCarty.
absolutely no introduction at all. MLS legend, veteran, and now MLS season pass analyst, Dax McCarty. How you doing, man?
Doing well, guys. Doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm sure you've missed my face around the training ground.
Yeah, of course.
Now we get to see you every week on MLS season pass, so definitely
Good. Well, I hope you guys are watching, tuning in. We're having fun over there.
Awesome.
Well, we want to get into obviously Atlanta United and all of what we've been dealing with over the past couple weeks.
Yep.
But we wanted to start with last season real quick. And it was an emotional one, I think, for us as fans. Obviously, it was your last season. We assumed that you joined Atlanta United in your last year because they were a potential MLS Cup defender or contender. Things didn't start off the way that they wanted to. It was a little bit rough. They sell Giakoumakis, Almada, Pineda leaves. All hope looks lost. Then you guys sneak into the playoffs. Biggest upset ever. And meanwhile, this is all after you announced this was your last season in MLS. So it was a roller coaster, obviously, for you. Tell us a little bit about the season.
Oh, man. Well, I think roller coaster pretty aptly describes exactly what I went through and what our team went through. It was difficult. It was a difficult season, especially considering the expectations versus how the season went. It was difficult, and so for myself, I had known going into the season. I had very open and honest conversations with Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra about my role and essentially what that would look like. And I knew going in that I was going to be a rotational piece in midfield, and my mentality, being as it was and as it always was as a player, was that okay, that's fine. If that's what you guys see for me going into the season, I'll prove you wrong. Just like I've done throughout my career. I've always ended up on the field in some form or fashion from the start. And so it didn't play out that way, and I look back on that season, and it gave me a different perspective, especially because I can only go back to my first season in MLS in 2006 is when I really didn't play very much and I was on the bench more than I started games. And, it's pretty poetic that my number was the same at Atlanta, number 13 as it was in Dallas. But definitely an up and down season. Some really high highs followed by some really low lows and some really tough moments during the year. Obviously, Gonzalo Pineda loses his job, which you never want to see. And I said this during the time, but as players, you have to feel partly responsible for that. We underperformed, and someone lost their job because of it. That's not a good feeling. And so it just felt like a pretty talented collection of players who just we really didn't get on the same page until right around playoff time. And then obviously with the playoffs, anything can happen. We went on a pretty magical run, beating Montreal away in penalties, and then that ridiculously fun series against Miami, which I'll never soon forget, as I'm sure many in this fan base won't forget. And then for it all to come crashing down at the end to Orlando, where we lose both of our strikers in very fluky injuries, where it just kind of seemed like our luck ran out a little bit, if you will. And that was sad. That was tough. I wanted to end my career on a high note with the championship. It wasn't meant to be. Definitely a nice consolation to have the greatest upset in MLS history. But I was always pretty clear in my head that I was going to move on after the season. And, I'm glad I got to do it and go out on my own terms.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to jump into, how an amazing job y'all are doing on Apple TV here in a minute. I have to ask though, because you talked about expectations, and I think Atlanta always is going to have expectations.
Yep.
Just considering, the ownership, everything else, the amount of money that they spend. This year, off to a kind of a rough start. You've got, expectations that were very high, and they're just not quite coming together fully yet. And then we find out, we're at training yesterday, and there's a little bit of a kerfuffle, as it were, between a couple of players. And I guess my question, you being so involved in specifically MLS for so long, when you have moments like that where the team is kind of down, maybe there's some blame getting thrown around, there's frustration, there's emotions running high, there's passion. When you see something like this between players that are kind of physically kind of going after each other, how do you keep that as a positive in the locker room?
I love that. Honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about or who you're talking about, but I have to say,
Dax.
I have to say that good. I love to see that type of stuff. I wish we actually saw that more last year. And look, I'm not gonna hop on a soapbox here and get all old man yells at a cloud at you guys, right? But I do have to say that the way that our game has moved forward when it comes to how players address each other, how players talk to each other in the locker room, how coaches talk to players, what is deemed acceptable behavior. It's all, I think, trended in a better direction than it was in the past, getting away from some of these pretty, I don't know if abusive is the right word, but pretty, tenuous relationships between players and coaches and players where, maybe fights were happening a little bit too often. But I have to say, I think it shifted too far in the other direction where there's not enough of that stuff anymore. And when I was young and when I was a player in MLS coming up in Dallas, I saw fights every other week when things weren't going well. And that was normal. Right. And so, like I said, maybe shifting that away from every other week to like once every few months is probably better, but it shows that you care, and it shows that the frustration is real and that the expectations are real. And it shows that there's fight in the group and in the team and in the players. And I actually don't mind that at all. I remember a very specific example of our under 20 national team. We were preparing for the under 20 World Cup in Canada. And I remember two players distinctly the day before our first game getting in a fight for no reason. In an 11v11, it was for whatever reason. Thomas Rongen was our coach. He brought us in. It was a little bit awkward. And Thomas Rongen goes, I love that. He's like, I love that. I've never been on a team where there's been a fight in training before a game and we haven't gone and won that game. And I said, okay. And now, listen, we ended up tying that game, but we ended up having a really good tournament. And he said that, that kind of set the tone for what this group was going to be about on the field. And so I've got to be honest. I love it because I quite frankly, have not seen enough fight in this Atlanta United team for multiple years now. I'm not absolving myself of blame in this either, because I was a part of that team last year, and I could have done more to motivate the group, to show more fight, to maybe light a fire under more people, because that's what we needed, right? It's not a question of talent, and I still don't think it's a question of talent with this Atlanta United team. So when I hear stuff like that, there's a little fight in training, great, awesome. I think that's exactly what this team needs.
Yeah, and I had a question about expectation about 2025 and all of that. But I did want to ask you one thing I always appreciated about you when I dealt with you in a media setting and now with MLS Season Pass is your candor and your just your honesty. How long did that take you to find your voice when you're a player just coming into MLS?
Yeah, it took me not that long at all. I was always pretty open and honest, and I have to be real with you guys. Sometimes to my own detriment, I will say. There is such thing as being too open and too honest at times.
Yeah.
I remember pretty vividly on numerous occasions where I thought I was doing the right thing as a player by being very open with the media and talking about things that I felt like were not a very big deal, but in the end, it ended up being probably a little bit of a step too far in terms of maybe the detail that I went into or some of the things that I said where I did hurt someone that I unintentionally didn't mean to. And so I've always been this way. I've always been honest. It was the household that I was raised in. It was the way that I've been raised, and the way that I've always been. I think to a certain extent, people appreciate candor and people appreciate openness and honesty, but you have to make sure that it's with a little bit of a filter at this point in time. And I don't ever want to be the guy who is so open and honest where I just say things and it doesn't come across as authentic. I think that's the worst thing that can happen, is if you just start talking nonsense and people are like, well, now he's just talking to be a clickbait analyst, or there's no substance to what he's saying because it's just obnoxious. I never want to be that guy. So it's a hard balance to find. That I think to your question, finding the right balance between how open you can be and then also with a little bit of a lens on being, a little bit more careful about some of the stuff that you say. Once you find that good balance, I think people really then start to appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely a good perspective to have, certainly, as the three of us, I'm sure with our podcast going forward, something we're learning, especially.
Totally.
So let's talk about 2025, right? Atlanta United 2-3-3. We're starting club history. New manager Ronnie Dyla, Latte Lot, most expensive signing in club history. Almiron coming back, and still kind of have this failure to launch situation where you can't score goals. You're losing to one of the worst teams in MLS, and just discontent around the team is just still high, even coming off the back of the playoff run in 2024.
Yeah.
What does this team need to do to get things going in the right direction, do you think? And can they get things going in the right direction?
Let me answer your second question first. Yes, of course this team can get it going in the right direction. I first things first, the sky is not falling for Atlanta United, okay? And I think part of the reason why this has been talked about a lot from fans, from media, from myself, and from us at MLS Season Pass is because relative to expectations, Atlanta United has fallen flat on their face to start the season. And it's okay to say that, because I guarantee you the expectations in that locker room are not to be 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th place, wherever they are in the MLS standings right now. The expectations unequivocally are a top 4 finish in the East, like without fail, and challenge for the Supporter Shield. Like if you went in that locker room man for man and asked them what their expectations were and are, that would be the answer, because this is a team that has talent. But I said it on MLS Wrap Up, guys, and talent only gets you so far. A talented collection of players sometimes doesn't make the best team. And I see a team that's just disjointed right now. I see a team that doesn't do any one thing particularly great or at a particularly high level, okay? And I look at the underlying numbers, which I'm a guy who I really value the eye test. I value what my eyes see. And I also think that there's a place for data in the modern game, but not so much to where you should only use one or the other. I think they should be used hand in hand. I look at the data and I look at the eye test and I say, well, there's a really good team here. So why isn't it working? And I think there's something to be said of this team, the attacking pieces with this team, they don't quite fit together right now. And you have Ronnie Dyla, you have a manager who wants to play a front foot progressive attacking possession approach. And I think Atlanta United, my colleague Bradley Wright Phillips talked about it a little bit, and we agreed there's a little bit of an identity crisis going on with this team, because what kind of team do you want to be? Do you want to be a team that is really dangerous and good in transition, or do you want to be a team that's really good on the ball in possession, where you break teams down through chance creation and through a lot of passing? I think it takes a really long time to get there. What Wilfred Nancy has done in Columbus has warped our minds a little bit, because everyone thinks it's just so easy to go on the field and say, well, I'm going to play out of the back under pressure no matter what happens. It doesn't just happen like that. It doesn't happen overnight. You need the right players. You need the right system. You need the right manager to be able to implement that, and it takes time. I see an Atlanta United team who should be the best team in the league in transition. They should be sitting a little bit deeper, letting teams come on to them a little bit and saying, hey, once you lose the ball, we're going to kill you in transition. How you use Miguel Almiron in this equation, I think, is the key. He's been played on the right as a right winger, and he hasn't looked great. He's played on the left as a left winger in this last game, and he scored a great goal. But it was called offside, which was a little unlucky from an Atlanta United perspective. But again, he looks a little bit frustrated. The only time I've seen things actually really look the best was when Dyla's hand was forced, and he was forced to move Moranchuk back as a number 8 and put Miguel Almiron in the middle and just let wingers and really fast players run off him. Yeah. The problem that you run into with that, guys, is that this back line isn't good enough yet to be able to, I think, be competitive against the best teams with Alexei Moranchuk in there with his defensive frailties. And that brings me to my last point about the midfield. I don't know if Ronnie Dyla knows what his best midfield is. And in my opinion, you have 4 very good players in midfield for only really 2 spots. And then if you move Moranchuk back as well, you've got to make – Ronnie Dyla has to make some really tough decisions. Bartosz Lisz, he's a very good player. I loved what he did last year at the end of last year. He hasn't started the season great, but he does provide to you something defensively that the other players don't. Tristan Mayumba, he was very inconsistent last year. He's been probably Atlanta United's best midfielder this year. He's been excellent. Okay. Matthias Klick, he's a good player, but he hasn't been fit. We haven't seen enough from him. And then you have a Johnny Fortune who, in my opinion, last year was Atlanta United's best midfielder who hasn't played enough. Okay. So Ronnie Dyla, he has to get this equation right. If it means Bartosz Lisz goes to the bench, then you have to see how that looks. Because the one thing with Lisz is that he isn't as comfortable in possession with the ball as some of these other midfielders. And if you want to play out of the back, we saw it against Inter Miami. And listen, I'm not to say that mistakes aren't allowed, but we've seen this with Bartosz a few times. He's not the most comfortable player in possession building out of the back. And so you have to protect him in a way. If you are going to use him as a defensive enforcer and say, go win aerial duels, go win the ball back, go win tackles, be a pit bull in there, great, he'll thrive. If you want him to be a metronome where he's getting the ball all the time and trying to build out this beautiful, intricate passing network, that's not his strength. And it's not going to be right now at this moment in time. So you have to figure out what your best 11 is. And by the way, guys, your best 11 players on the field that make your best team, it's not always your most talented. So Dyla has to figure out, what is my best 11 where I can get the most effective result I want in the attack and in the back line, and then put those players on the field regardless of whose feelings get hurt. Because you might have to bench some big-time players. You might have to do it. That's where we're at with this Atlanta team. But listen, the sky is not falling. I think they're going to be okay. They just have to get these attacking players on the same page right now. And I think the key is Miguel Almiron.
And that's what we've joked around for the first few weeks. Every time we had someone on from Apple TV, the first thing they brought up was Moranchuk.
Yeah.
And it felt like he was getting most of the blame for the first, what do you guys say, 4 weeks? That was the name. There was no one else that was really named in it, but it was always him. Like, that's the puzzle piece that you need to figure out here.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Alexei Moranchuk is a very good player. I think he's a very useful player. Here's the problem you run into with MLS and the designated player tag. You have a player in Alexei Moranchuk who I played with and who I value what he brings to the club very, very much so. But as a DP, number 10, what do people want to see? They want to see goals. They want to see assists. It's never really been what he's been about in even when he played in Serie A with Atalanta. You know, he was kind of this really nice piece on a good team. And if you expect him to go out there and score 10 goals and get 15 assists for you, I think your expectations, you know, it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But we've seen it. He's got a really cultured left foot. He's really good on the ball. He can pick out a pass anywhere on the field, right? And so, listen, he hasn't been at his best, and I definitely think he deserves a little bit of criticism, but he is far from the only attacking player in this group that has not been up to snuff, okay? And you can talk about everyone down the line. Emmanuel Latte-Lot, he scored goals. He probably could have 7 or 8 goals, okay? So he's missed chances. Miguel Almiron, he hasn't been at his best either, okay? So all these different players, Sabalov Janitze, he was the best attacking player Atlanta United had last year. He doesn't have a goal in the season yet, okay? Even when he hasn't really played in his most preferred position, which is on the right wing. So you have this congregation of players who all individually are extremely talented, right? But when you put them together on the field, they're getting in each other's way. They're occupying the same spaces. There's not a lot of cohesion with how Ronny Deila wants this team to attack. You have Brooks Lennon and you have Pedro Amador, very good fullbacks who like to get forward and get crosses into the box. But other than Latte-Lot, who is a danger to attack the box and to crash the box? I just think this team is suffering a little bit from what they want to be in attack. And so you have to just come to an agreement where maybe the most talented players, hey, you're not going to start every game. We're going to have more of a rotation. We're going to find maybe more of a balance of how we try to attack things. And look, it's not there's not one fix for any of this, but maybe for a game, you just see what happens. You move Moranchuk deeper, you play Miguel Almiron as a 10, you play Edwin Mosquera or Sean De Silva as a left winger, and then you just tell your fullbacks, hey, we have a very aggressive attacking front 5 right now. Both of my fullbacks stay at home. I don't need you attacking because we have enough quality in that attacking front 5 to score goals. Maybe that's what you do. You know, Ronny Deila has to figure out a solution because now you waste 3 home games where you should have 9 points and you only get 4 points. And now you've got 2 consecutive difficult games on the road. Good luck.
Man, I wish we had longer. I got to ask, because you brought up Jay Fortune, and you were, you had a lot of praise for him in Orlando, was down there last year at the very end. And so I'm glad you brought him up. I guess to kind of piggyback on what you just said, because we're not going to solve all of Atlanta United's problems in 25 minutes, but how do you implement Jay as it stands right now? Is he more of that number 6, that kind of bulldog? Is he more of that, kind of ball progressing number 8? Where do you see him fit in?
It's a really good question. And the reason why I like the question is because it gives me a chance to praise Johnny in his selflessness, but also his versatility. He can play a number of different roles in midfield. I think his skill set is such that he is best as a number 8, where he can get up and down the field. He can go find the ball. But Johnny's very comfortable in possession, and he's got great range. He covers a lot of ground. And so if there's a case where you need to see a Johnny in midfield and you need to tell him, hey, I don't need you getting into the box. I need you protecting this back line. I need you to sit in front of Stian Gregerson and Derek Williams whenever he's healthy, or Luis Abram, whoever that other center back is. And I just need you to protect the back 4. And I need you to let you go and let the back 5 do what they need to do. I absolutely think he could thrive in a role like that. The issue that you run into when you move Moranchuk deeper is that you lose maybe a Tristan Mayumba off the team, who's been great. Tristan has been one of the midfielders who he is comfortable in possession. He is comfortable to get on the ball and to connect those lines and move the team up the field. The problem is that with Tristan, he's just a little bit inconsistent and he switches off defensively a little bit too much. He's so strong in the tackle. I love watching this guy fly around and win the ball back. But there are moments I got frustrated with him last year because he switched off, a player ran in behind him, and it was just for a split second, and then there was a chance created or a goal scored, right? And so, look, these are every coach in the league would love to have problems like this. These are champagne problems to have as many good players as Atlanta United has. But you have to find different combinations and see what works. Johnny Fortune, he hasn't been used enough. He needs to see the field more to see if he can change the fortunes of this team a little bit and help this team a little bit. And to piggyback off that, you need to see more Noah Cobb. I want to see Noah Cobb on the field more because I think Noah Cobb adds another element to this back line of he's sneaky athletic, he's very fast, he can defend in transition, he's getting more comfortable on the ball. So these are all questions that Ronnie Dyla needs to answer and things that I would like to see for Atlanta United to kind of help them get out of this funk. And you challenge players. You challenge players that maybe think that their spot in the lineup is secure when it shouldn't be. And then you get the best out of everyone on the team. When you make rotations and when you can rely on a number of different players, that's when you see players really start to thrive.
Yeah.
100%. Well, Dax, we're going to have like a volume 2 of this because
anytime. Hey, look, you guys know as well as I do, I am always available for you guys and your time. I love Atlanta United. I was only there for a year, but it's hard for me to talk about them and be critical because I like the guys in the locker room. They're still my friends, but I'm trying my best to balance that and do a job. And if I was sitting here blowing smoke up your guys' collective butts, you guys would know, and you guys should call me out on it because I wouldn't be doing my job well. And so I think there's some accountability that needs to occur in that Atlanta locker room. I think someone else other than Brad Guzan, multiple players need to step up into leadership roles. And I think once that happens, this team is going to be fine. I think they are going to be good. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a problem towards the end of the season. But right now they've got a lot of problems to fix.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dax, we truly appreciate it. You're doing a great job with MLS and love the chemistry y'all all have together. It's awesome. And we appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Anytime.
Say hi to Kevin for us, by the way.
I will. Kevin's a legend.
Yeah, he is.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
guys. See you.
Good stuff.
Great interview.
That is a phenomenal interview. And that's not to toot our own horn. That was all Dax. I would take that interview, just again, not for us, and freaking play that in the locker room because he dropped some absolute truth bombs for sure. I thought he was just brutally honest about that. And I love that.
I liked what he said. He still is very close with a lot of the guys in the locker room from last year, but there's that balance that you need to strike because you don't want to piss guys off that you played with, just not even 6 months ago or 7 months ago, right? But I like that Dax was able to really strike that balance and be, as honest and candid as guys we've expected him to be, throughout his MLS career. Like he said, it's kind of funny. He was talking about, he's always been that way. I kind of get the sense that he has always been that way. Some players, it takes them a little bit once they enter the league, I'm sure, to find their voice. I don't doubt what Dax said, that he really found his voice right off the bat. So a really good interview and very honest, very to the point, but very refreshing at the same time. And great to have his perspective on things. I think it was very welcome.
We've been talking about who's the leader, who's going to step up. I mean, that's been a 2 to 3 year question. We've brought up Brooks Lennon multiple times. Miguel Almiron coming back as a former Atlanta United player. Who's it going to be that is going to step up to be the man?
Right. And that's, you're asking that question. I feel it's more rhetorical, but who can that player be?
No, it's not rhetorical.
Well,
I want to know who the leader, who the other leaders in the locker room are.
Derek Williams. He's shown it. Sleesh has gotten the armband, for better or for worse. I feel like he's shown it just a little bit. Maybe Stian can be one of those players. Noah Cobb, we saw some elements of that. Pineda talked about that last season, I think, just a little bit. And we saw it during Rooting of the Stripes. He wasn't afraid to speak up. But yeah, they need more players like that. I definitely agree. And those are just a few, that, from what I've seen, what I've experienced, maybe in training, but definitely in matches, guys that aren't afraid to speak up. But you have to be able to do it all the time. And you don't do it just to get under the guy's skin, right? But you have to pick your spots and just make sure that you're able to be trusted enough with the message. I mean, you can't just throw anybody out there to say anything they want, right? It has to be a trusted vessel. It has to be someone that can speak truth into the situation and ruffle feathers without being a jerk about it.
One of the things that Ronnie Dyla, from the very first game, the first time that we saw anything to do with Ronnie Dyla and Atlanta United, he said these players need to talk more. Like, they need to communicate more. And that's been a consistent theme. Like, it even got brought up, I want to say 2 weeks ago at the training ground. Derek Williams has talked about it, how, they're being encouraged to communicate more, be louder. You can hear Ronnie Dyla and the coaching staff out there at training telling them, like, y'all need to speak up, like, use your voice. And so, I mean, yeah, like, there's a handful of guys I think you could look at and say, all right, well, you really need to step up and be a leader. I saw somebody's comment way back in the chat about, take Brad Guzan out and just see who steps up, see kind of how they fare. And I mean, no, I don't think that's the best idea, like, realistically, but I do get what they're saying 100%. Like, you need somebody besides Brad to be there, because Brad isn't always going to be there. And it can't just be that you rely on him to be the guy that yells and screams. And that's not to say, Brooks Lennon and Derek Williams, and I mean, to a degree, even Noah Cobb, like, all these guys, it's not to say that they're not, they're making their voices heard, but you need it to be more consistent, and not only in the locker room and the things that we don't see, but you need to see it on the pitch as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the armband, or you talk about the armband. Ronald Hernandez had the armband before as well. I mean, there were a lot of people that had the armband at some point last season.
Yeah.
But the armband, that just doesn't do much for me anymore. Like, I remember how much everybody freaked out during the Open Cup,
right?
That Ronald Hernandez had the armband. Like, you would have thought that they were moving the franchise. Like, that was how dramatic it was. That, like, traumatizing it was to certain people that Ronald Hernandez had the armband in that game. You don't need. You hear this all the time in hockey. Where hockey, there is a captain and two alternate captains.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of guys on teams that say, I was offered the C and I said no. Give it to someone else. And some of them are veterans. Like, there's some people that just don't need the armband or the captaincy or the A to be a leader. That's who you are. That's the player that you are. And if they're not it, then you need to start picking up some of those guys. And so we've talked about, like, the time through MLS, picking up some MLS vets. You say Derek Williams.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they've said that he's stepped up as a leader before. But now it's a little bit different than where it was last season. You didn't have, for the last half of the season, you didn't have a lot of expectations. And they would never say that. And the players probably don't believe that either. But if you're looking at it realistically, you're going into the last half of the season with one DP player, one legit DP player. And that was when you picked up Ronchuk. You're trying to do what you can. You're not tanking for a MLS Super Draft pick. You are just trying to get into the playoffs and see what happens. But even if you get in the playoffs, I know anything could happen, but you're not going to be a favorite in any series that you get into. They weren't the favorite going into the playing game, but you just see what happens there. Yeah. But now you're back to where you were at the beginning of last season, where we talked about with Dax. You were trying to sign with an MLS contender. You were trying to come in and win a championship. All these guys came in. Latila talked about, I came to Atlanta United. They sold me on a dream of winning championships. So it's a completely different environment than where it was last season. It's what FEA last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were the underdog. That doesn't work if you're the number one seed. That
right.
that's a different mindset. And the mindset you should be here is because you do on paper have a very, very talented team. You have used every salary cap shenanigan that you can to get as many TAM players that you can on this team. You've besides the U22s, you've really maxed out your roster. You are expected to win, and you're not doing it. So who is going to step up? What's the slogan going to be? What are they going to do to start producing wins?
You don't need a slogan, do you?
Hey, you know what? Maybe that is something that they need. Maybe they need. I mean, you were selling T-shirts. They were holding the banners in the locker room. It was
Yeah,
something that united the team. And there's some teams in other sports that have done the same thing, where they have a slogan throughout the season or throughout the playoffs that really they can all tie to, and that's where they go.
yeah, but some of that's marketing, right? But there needs to be internal thing, an organic thing. Rob Valentino saying "F them all." They rallied around that, but I definitely see your point. What's that rallying cry internally for the team? Like, you're 2-3-3. You got to do something. You got to pick things up somehow. Maybe the little scuffle, kerfluffle, whatever the word is, between Salish and William
That would
Ba.
be kerfuffle.
Yeah, kerfuffle. Maybe that's the spark that Lady United needs. You hate to constantly that. And again, I don't look too much into it. I don't think it's like the end of the world. Guys get into it all the time. I mean, that's what we see that's what we saw. But that's what we see in the open door session, guys. Right? We don't know what happens behind closed doors between these players. So if it sparks something, great. If it turns into something that tears the team apart, then it's bad.
But something did happen. Something obviously happened.
Well, yeah.
When Ronnie brings up on Saturday, we have to stay together. When Brooks brings up, we've got to stay together.
Yeah,
there's something that happened, whether it was at halftime,
someone said
something
on Tuesday.
There was some comments right at whistle, and they're walking back to the locker room. Something happened in between that time to create this.
I agree.
These comments. So what is it, and how do they recover from it? And we find out Saturday. If this team looks terrible against Philadelphia, and they look even more disjointed than they did this previous Saturday, then it's a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
If they come back and maybe they don't win, but they look better. They look better throughout the whole game because
look better.
There's still you see the comments saying Atlanta United hit a post, they hit a crossbar, everything happened but scoring a goal. I understand what happened in the last 15 minutes of the game. That was desperation trying to get in. But what happened to the rest of the game where they just looked not together for most of the game? They just didn't look together. That's the thing. You got to be playing a 90-minute game. Yeah. And you haven't played a 90-minute game all season. There hasn't been one.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. This team needs to be more cohesive to play that 90-minute effort, and it's just disappointing that we're in this now, not going into the ninth match of the season, and we're still talking about Atlanta United hasn't even played a 90-minute match. You got away with it against Montreal. Montreal is terrible. You got away with it against NYCFC. NYC just capitulated, and they didn't know what was coming. But in the losses you've played and the ties you've played, you haven't played a 90-minute effort, and that's concerning. How much longer are we going to see this from Atlanta United? If you draw, I think you were saying, Tommy, if you draw Philly and you put in 90 minutes of hard-charging football, I'll come away happy. Draw would be disappointed, of course, but at least there's a pulse. At least,
I don't think draw is disappointing.
No, well, it depends on how it happens. I mean, but you want to get 3 points every match. You don't want to settle for a draw or anything like that. Is what I'm saying. But if you show a pulse, if you show something, if you come out with fire, yeah, they'll be definitely encouraged by this team moving forward. But we haven't seen it yet. We haven't.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of it has to do with. I don't think the chemistry. I'm sorry, it's chemistry. I don't think the lineup is as much the issue as it is. Like we mentioned the leadership thing, right? And one of the comments that popped up in the chat was Zach saying, I don't know why we don't have a leadership group. Newcastle fan, Bruno Guimaraes is the first captain, but then he's got a leadership group around him. Interestingly enough, Pineda had that last year going into the season, right?
Yeah.
He went into the season and talked about, Brooks Lennon and a handful of other guys who were part of this like leadership group, and talked a little bit about, kind of where that went, but ultimately we know how the season went. So
Right.
I think you have to find somebody out there that is going to be able to make the team more cohesive, that's going to be able to kind of dictate, help control the tempo. Of course, midfielder's job, center back's job to help control the tempo as well. But
Yeah.
in terms of just saying, like, if they see somebody, maybe a little too much on the gas at one point, they can step to them and say, hey, like, let's pump the brakes. Let's calm the momentum down. So, I think the leadership is a part of it. Then you go back to what we're talking about with Philadelphia, and everything that we've seen happen, like Tommy was talking about, the comments after this last match with the kind of the blame game, and then the kerfuffle on Tuesday. That can all be a net positive if the team and Dyla and the coaching staff can direct it that way. Again,
Right.
we mentioned earlier, I think at first, when you first hear it, it's like, oh, drama, like this sucks. This is not good. Everything's falling apart, but not really. Dax talked about it, but it's just one of those things where sometimes, we talk about it as media and fans and everybody else, like you've had enough, but the players have had enough too. They don't want to keep playing like this. And sometimes
They don't want to get booed.
Right.
Yeah.
Get literally in their own stadium. Just,
Right.
if they can take what all has happened in the past, 4, 5, 6 days and turn it into something up against Philly, who is notoriously a physical, frustrating, and I'm going to leave it at that, opponent to play against.
In the past under curtain, but maybe not under curtain now.
Well,
to be fair.
If you got Philly in your name, you're jerks.
Yeah. But you can make that a positive. It can be a good sign.
So, just talking about Philly, of course, they traded Gastag, their all-time leading scorer, to the Crew, and we all talked about that, like, what are they doing, and it's difficult par for the course for Philadelphia. But, guys, I talked about, just a little bit ago how, Philly's, they're not a terrible team by any stretch of the imagination at this point. They got off to a really good start to their season, their first season, of course, under Bradley Carnell. But they're winless in their last 3. They lost to Miami in Fort Lauderdale. They drew Orlando, and then they lost to New York City in their last outing. So they're coming in after having started the season winning 4 of their first 5 and now winless of their last 3. They're coming in trying to prove something themselves, trying to prove that, hey, this streak that we were on to start the season wasn't just a flash in the pan. This is who we're going to be in 2025. But B, they're looking to show that, hey, we can still be a good team without Gastag. I imagine there are a lot of questions being asked in that locker room as to why the team traded him. Well, we all know why, because obviously they didn't want to pay him, but I'm sure he was a well-respected player in the locker room, a leader, a dependable scorer, a dependable player, one of the best players in MLS, right? And all of a sudden he's gone, and some guys are probably looking around like, hey, I could be next. Because we mentioned, in the last year of his contract, it's probably thinking, hey, I could be next. What if the team doesn't want to pay me? Andre Blake's been banged up. You haven't seen him a whole lot this season. So this is a Philly team that aren't desperate right now, certainly aren't in as bad a way as Atlanta are right now, but they're looking to answer some questions about themselves and maybe silence 1 or 2 doubters that may be thinking, hey, you started out great 2025, but you're going to kind of dive bomb and regress to the mean. So maybe they have something to prove at home. So looking forward to what their response is, and how can they come out for this match because they're trying to turn their season around just a little bit. Go ahead, Tommy. I know you had something.
I was just gonna say, when you trade a leader in the locker room, that could be extremely deflating to everyone, and they've already had kind of a rough go of it since the offseason. Some unexpected moves, some comments, some understanding about ownership. Like players, they weren't happy with the coaching change. A lot of them love Curtin. We hate him, but a lot of people love him out there.
Yeah.
And when you lose a leader, it can sometimes break teams. I mean, look at us and leadership. Like, who knows what else they have there?
Right.
Someone said take Brad Guzan off, and yeah, you could take that off. But I mean, when he gets hurt, and when Brad went down before, we talked about it. There was lack of leadership on the field. And what happened? There was a lot of disasters that happened.
Yeah.
Who's gonna yell? Who's gonna yell? How's the sun gonna reflect off someone's forehead?
Right.
You have so many questions when your leader goes out there. And we had problems when Brad got hurt multiple times as far as leadership goes. You have to take advantage of it. It's only game 2 without him. Last week was the big shock. You need to get something out of this game.
Yeah. It's interesting. This kind of head-to-head, you've got 5 wins for each side, 7 draws. The last 2 meetings have both been draws. You had a 1-1 and a 2-2 draw both last year. And going back to 2023, Philly beat Atlanta 3-2. I think we had a watch-along for that one, and it was rather frustrating.
That's when Pineda went off on Ellis Chilowitz. I don't know who the referee is going to be for this one. But.
It's not Chilowitz. I saw it earlier, and I can't think of the name. But, but yeah, I mean, you've had it seems sometimes when you look at the Atlanta Philly matchup that I think it's been so frustrating to watch as fans because of the type of soccer that they have played under Jim Curtin that it feels like Atlanta just can't get it right with them. But they've fared fairly well. Now, going up to Philly, it's a different story. It's not always been great. But again, I go back to what we were just saying. If you can come up there with like a renewed sense of a-hole, like Ronnie Dyla wants, I mean, you can catch them by surprise. And all the things that y'all just said about, the Gazdag sale trade, whatever, the team kind of, maybe coming back down to the level that they should have been at. You never know what that's going to do in terms of the trade for leadership and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the dude was the all-time leading scorer. He's been around the block with them. That can definitely upset the vibes for sure. And so to me, this game is all about what happens in the locker room in the freaking 45 minutes before the opening whistle.
Yeah. So again, this is traditionally been a tough team for Atlanta United, especially on the road. And again, you just hope that you see a pulse. You hope you see something from this team that you haven't seen a whole lot. Most importantly, a full 90-minute effort. You have to get that done, by any means necessary, really.
Yeah.
I feel it's gonna be a 1-1. Just from my vantage point, I still think there's a little bit more for Atlanta to do. Certainly, when it comes to chemistry in the attack, which we haven't seen really at all this season. But I think they'll be able to get something on the road, and like we've said, they're going to have to get something on the road, because if you don't, you come out of this trip empty-handed, you're even further behind the 8 ball. And like I've said in the past, you can't miss out on the playoffs this early this season, but you can't do yourself any favors if you're dropping points and not winning matches. So I say 1-1. You'll at least get a point out of it, but I think it'll be definitely encouraging, and more encouraging performance that we see from Atlanta United.
Well, before we get to actual predictions,
Sorry about
I
that.
wanted to jump on Victory's comment here because we were kind of touching on some of the stuff that, that's kind of been like the thing this week, but asking, we're at training, are the egos in check? I think from like the perspective that we see things, again, we can only see one full training session a week.
Mm.
And then, just essentially the warm-ups on another day. But I've never even going back years, I've never seen, a prima donna type character at the training ground, like just act as if, they're better than everybody. They, just kind of sit above everybody else. I've never really seen that. And I mean, this year you see all the guys that should come out and put forth the extra effort doing it. I mean, you see Miggy, you see
Yeah.
Alexi Miranchuk, you see Latte Life, like the DPs, they come out and they're working harder, just as hard minimum, but harder than everybody else. Saba needs it. Dude,
Mhm.
you could ask that dude to cut off an arm for Atlanta United. So
He cut off both.
I've never kind of seen that, but I wanted to hit on that because like I know the training ground, especially with the kerfuffle on Tuesday, has been like a kind of a point of contention amongst
Stop
fans.
using that word, please.
No, it's kerfuffle. It's a kerfuffle.
Fight.
It's
the
a kerfuffle.
The kerfuffle in the fortress.
Yeah.
Let's see. I didn't bring up the fortress. I also didn't say reskeet. So
Right.
we're not. It's a kerfuffle. Fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs. I like that. That's a hockey term.
Yeah, I like that one.
No, you like that, Tommy.
All right, carry on.
Sorry.
Prediction.
What's yours? I gave mine. What's yours?
I'm gonna say 2-1 Philly.
You're picking Atlanta to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that never happens. I mean,
know.
if that happens, they must be doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just, for all the things that I can sit there and say, like Dax said, the sky's not falling, but also this is traditionally not an easy place to play for Atlanta. They don't exactly have all the momentum. The wild card is if they're pissed off, like Matt said in the comments, like maybe they're pissed. Maybe this kerfuffle, fisticuffs, whatever. Maybe it did something. Maybe it, kind of built them up a little bit. But it's just hard for me to, using my mind, thinking with my head, say that Atlanta's going to win this game or even draw. I hope I'm wrong.
Me too. I hope you're wrong too. From a pure fan standpoint.
I just put in our Discord that it was going to be 2-2, and then I saw Matt's comment about 2-1, and that inspired me. And now, when I hear Tyler say that Atlanta United is going to lose the game, there would be nothing better than showing up on Sunday. Well, no, not on Sunday because that is Easter. We will not be around.
Yes.
There will be nothing like coming on from my WrestleMania Easter hangover, 420 hangover on a Monday and saying, Tyler, you gave up on this team. I never gave up. Just remember, you gave up.
I hope
I
you can
didn't,
do this on Monday.
and they won.
I would be so happy.
Yeah.
If Atlanta United wins this game and John Cena doesn't beat Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship, it'll be a great weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it. Cody and Atlanta United.
That's right, because Cena turned heel, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Stay after the show for our WrestleMania preview.
Yeah.
Nobody will know anything that I'm talking about, but I'll
Derek
be passionate.
in the chat saying a 2-0 loss. Amelia 1-1. Derek calling it Kerfuffle FC. Jack 2-0 Philly. Kareem 1-1. Omar 4-2. Atlanta. Let's go.
Team with a good point too. Latte Lot is
Omar said 4-2. He's always like picking Atlanta to lose like 7-0.
Hey man, that's
you inspire people, Tyler.
Yeah, you have. Team bringing up good point in the chat. Latte Lot is on 4 yellows. If he gets shown a yellow in this next match, he sits out the following match. So
calm down, dude.
Tightrope, as Mike Conti calls it.
You need to calm down,
annoying.
man.
He's got some frustrating yellow cards. Like they.
Yeah.
one you got because you said a word to the head ref, but then that rule is not enforced anywhere else. It pisses me off, man.
I will say at least he has some backup strikers if he does get set off. Yeah, it does get yellow. Of course, he don't want to get a yellow, but yeah, that's where he stands right now.
Bruno 3-1 Atlanta.
Let's go, Bruno.
Over in the rest of Scarves and Spikes, don't know that anybody else has predicted anything except for Henry. Henry's got 2-1 Philly as well.
Henry and Tyler both picked Atlanta to lose. You heard it here first.
I genuinely hope we're wrong. I really do.
I hope you're wrong too. We're still doing our Patreon mailbag, right?
Join us.
Yes.
We need some questions.
Patreon.com/scarves and spikes. Join and get access to that and a whole lot of other benefits, as well as our Atlanta United Discord. So go ahead and hop in there. You still have time to sign up.
Hop?
We do it right now. Well, yeah.
What?
I mean, virtually hop in there.
It's easy.
But
Well, no, yeah. It was an Easter
see, I
reference.
didn't pick up on that when I said it. But
Had a joke on accident.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I was doing.
Exactly. But yeah, patreon.com/scarves and spikes. Head over there, get access. Of course, again, we have 3 different tiers. All the information is on the website.
Our tiers, we've
Patreon.com/scarves
added a
and
lot.
spikes. Yeah, we have.
We've added a lot of fun things that we're going to do. The live mailbag, the U.S. stuff that Sydney did.
Yeah.
We're going to have a twos report.
No,
The
let's break out
unfiltered videos that'll start very soon, once a week.
very soon.
Lots of stuff. Also, and then y'all kind of alluded to it earlier, but Easter, happy Easter to everybody. If you're celebrating. Sunday. So Monday, we
Happy
will have
WrestleMania weekend.
Yes.
MLS Monday and our reaction show in the same night. So enjoy
Doubleheader.
Sunday with your family. Hopefully celebrating a win
Yeah.
for Atlanta United.
Or if you're going to Sweetwater Festival.
Yeah, that too.
Yes.
That too. I hope you drink lots of beer and stay responsible. Dallin, yes, please go put some weird questions over in Patreon.
Just ask them all to Sydney. Ask all the weird questions. Just say, Sydney, this question is only for you.
But no, I think any final thoughts? Philly sucks. Hope Atlanta wins.
Can't do another week of this. Can't do
Oh.
another week of this.
I'm sorry.
What?
We mentioned
What?
we're going to get back to it with predictions. What's acceptable for points earned in this 2-game road trip?
Sydney said 9 points.
Impossible. Well, I can give you mine. Like, let's go. 4 points. 4 points.
4 points minimum?
Well, minimum 2. Minimum 2, but 4
Well,
points
okay.
will be good. Minimum 2 points.
For you not to consider the road trip a failure, 2 points?
2 points. 2
Okay.
points. What about you?
I'll go with 2. Because I mean, it is the road. It is MLS. Like,
Yeah.
take away all the recency bias and the whatever, the frustration. Like, to be fair, it's not easy to go on the road even when you're playing well. So two is good.
Tommy?
I wanted to say 1. Don't do that to me. Don't.
Sorry, that was
You're like
not on purpose.
you're
Not on purpose.
like an upset parent at me when I'm saying. I mean, a lot of people have been saying 0. We got a lot of zeros on
What do you
Sunday.
say?
I mean, the Orlando game's definitely gonna be tough. They're playing well. I've been talking about the puck luck thing obnoxiously in my head, thinking about it and thinking about just the hockey playoffs starting and teams talking about when they go on droughts and the goals come in bunches, and the goals are going to come in bunches at some point. They did a couple of weeks ago against New York, and you put up 4. It's going to happen in one of these games. I say 3.
Okay.
You get a win out of one of these.
Oh.
You get a win.
Sorry.
You get a win. They're going to get one win at least on.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how that worked with 2 matches. I forgot. It's 3 points for a win. So
Clearly,
It's a mini
math
show.
on this show is not anybody's strong suit.
yeah,
Which one do they win against? You think
Philly.
Philly?
yeah.
I think so.
If they win any match, Philly.
I think so. I
feel
think
like
they-
have a better
I
chance of
think-
beating Orlando personally.
I think they get a draw in Orlando.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
So I'm saying 4, but 3 would be nice.
Okay, I like
3
it.
or 4.
I mean, I think it was Henry that reposted, or one of us posted our predictions for the season, and I forgot to come on the show on Sunday saying, "Boys, I think we overestimated this team."
Just a
And
little.
here we are. Here
Just
we
a
are
little
in
bit.
2 wins.
Yeah. Through 8 matches.
It's a long
All right.
season left. It's okay.
Yeah.
If anyone's bored at 10 o'clock tonight and you're up and you want to hang out, I'm joining the Battered Herons group on Battered MLS, so come join us over there. We're talking disappointing teams, so that's why I was invited. So that's why I'm going there. And then we're talking about the schedule not
That should be
changing.
fun.
Well, and then also MLS Moves is going to be there. So
Mm.
this isn't going to be Orange Mountain Dew by the time we get to 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Something a little stronger, right?
Also, I hope Omar's still here, but Tina watched me pouring my Mountain Dew into this cup here. She goes, "Man, they really traumatized you, didn't they?"
They got-
Hell yeah! And team, yeah, it's on YouTube. Look up Battered MLS. But yeah, I just keep getting broken. I can't do anything. I was out the other day drinking out of a bottle at the thing, and Tina just looked at me. I go, "You're not watching how I drink this beer, are you?" And she's like, "No, why?" And I go, "Omar might be anywhere."
Yeah.
Watch it. I was
Always
gonna
watching.
make a for the shop. I was gonna make a. You can't even drink an open glass at this point.
Right.
I can't do that or anything.
I was gonna do a shot.
Nobody
glass
take a picture of that. Nobody screenshot that.
Yeah.
with the logo, and it said to just have it say right, because I want to give you all of the.
I've been way better. I've been
You have.
way,
You have.
way better.
right.
No.
All right, for everybody else, again, we're about to go hop over on the AMA. I think we tentatively put the time at 8:30, but it's really just whenever we get done with this. So, if you're not a part of Patreon, patreon.com/scarves and spikes, go jump over there and drop your questions and then jump into it. We'll have a good time.
Yeah.
Also get you in the Discord as well. So always good,
Indeed.
good conversation going on there.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks to Dax McCarty.
Absolutely.
Tremendous interview.
See y'all.
I told my friend Dax was coming on the show, and he asked if it was Dax Shepard.
Okay.
It doesn't say his last name.
I just said Dax.
Dax.
I mean,
Everybody
context.
Dax.
Please,
I mean, he
you know?
likes Atlanta United, so I figured that he knew.
Right, context.
Real random story. Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell. Is it Kristen or Kirsten? Kristen.
Kristen.
Kristen Bell. They held my my son Ryan when he was like 4 weeks old.
That's cool.
Very random.
Very random. My mother-in-law works at a retirement home, and Kristen Bell's grandfather, I guess, was there at that point and was telling him how much we liked our pregnancy show together. We watched was Veronica Mars, which is a great show.
Yeah.
So they said, "Oh, well, they're coming to visit.
Yeah.
You should go." I couldn't make it, but Tina went with Ryan, and Kristen and them held Ryan for a little bit. So,
Sweet.
so it's Ryan's unofficial godmother.
Claim to fame.
Yeah, but Dax Shepard, what's he done lately? I don't know. He can go away.
He's got a podcast.
Yeah, who does that? Who does podcasts though?
I know. Losers.
I gotta go do 3 push-ups before the Q&A.
All right.